I'm gonna give you the progression that we use here at Garage Strength to get all of our athletes to squat deep, and we're gonna start right now. What's up everybody, it's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you smash that notification bell so we can help you become a beast. So when we're training all of our athletes here, we like to get our athletes to squat deep, and there's a couple reasons why. That's the big thing that we gotta talk about immediately is it actually important to squat with full range of motion? And when I'm saying full range of motion, I'm saying ass to grass. I want to see the glutes draped over those calves, okay? Now we don't always squat ass to grass, but I like to have my athletes have that capability, and a couple of reasons why, okay? We want to see that full range of motion so that we can understand the athlete's mobility. Where are they tight, where are they loose, where can they actually work through that full range of motion? And then on top of that, we train a lot of weightlifting movements, and there's a large carryover from a high bar back squat that's full range of motion into weightlifting, okay? And then that next key factor is that we want to train dynamic trunk control for all of our athletes. So if we're training for sports performance, if we have a wrestler, they're going to be in deep ranges of motion. If we have a football player, they're going to be in a very deep range of motion. They're going to be in these deep positions. And so if they have that dynamic trunk control from that full depth movement, that's going to enhance their overall performance. So all these factors are really, really important to consider when we're doing that full range of motion movement, is that we want to enhance sports performance, we want to enhance mobility, and we also, if we are training specific weightlifting movements, the technical coordination movements, we will see a direct carryover from that high bar back squat into the actual technical coordination. So this is our progression that we use specifically for the high bar back squat. Okay, so when we start to teach the full range of motion squat, what we need to do is actually have the progressions established ahead of time. And we have youth weightlifting national champion Ryan McDonald here. He is 60 kilos, and he's cleaned over 245 pounds. What would you be in, 8th grade, 9th grade? Ninth grade. Extremely strong, extremely explosive, and he's got excellent mobility. So the first step that we're gonna do when we get our athlete in the door and we wanna see how they move, let's say we have a 5th grader or a 6th grader that comes in our door, is we wanna see them set their foot width. So we're gonna go a little bit wider than foot width apart, and we can do the little cheat where we just go here, and then we put our feet here, and then we just move it out another 6 inches, okay? So Ryan's got his foot width set, okay? Now what I wanna see from Ryan is put his hands out, arms out, and I want him to think about, I'm pulling from his knee here, and I'm pulling from his hip here at the exact same time. So the knees will track forward over the toes, and his hips will shift back, and he's gonna sit deep into that hole, okay? Give me 5 of these. So the knees can go, now Ryan's knees can go forward a little earlier. Even a little bit more. Okay, good. Now, okay, that's good. Now, if I see somebody who tends to they're a little bit stiffer in their ankles, their heels start to pop, and their hips don't drop back, and their knees don't track forward, what I tend to do then is we're gonna put your heels up on the plates, is we give a little bit of a cheat. This is gonna increase the range of motion a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier. So now Ryan's gonna do the exact same thing. So if you have someone with stiff ankles, Ryan typically does not, what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise that, we're gonna do heel elevated air squat. So that's the first key factor, is that we need to just keep this as simple as possible. If you get a new athlete, don't sit there and walk them through the whole eccentric portion. What I like to do is actually use simple cues like, hey, knees forward, butt back. Pretend you're sitting out in the garden and you're picking tomatoes. Pretend you're doing something very simple, squatting as deep as possible. You're looking for 4-leaf clovers. That's the first cue, is to execute this as easy as we possibly can. Okay, so that second key step with the progression is that we're gonna do a dowel rod zombie squat. And it's really, really easy to do this. You can get a dowel rod, you can get a PVC pipe, a 5-kilo bar. And what we wanna see is when we're doing this, knees tracking forward, the hips coming back in an upright posture. We don't wanna put a lot of stress on our hips. We don't wanna put a lot of stress on our hips if we have a super wide stance. We don't wanna put a ton of stress on our lower back. We wanna be mobile in our ankles, in our knees, in our lower back, and even in that thoracic spine. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna try and cue the athlete, Ryan here, youth national champ, don't forget. We're gonna see the knees forward, hips back, and it's just focusing on that posture as well as you can. And remember, If you have an athlete whose ankles aren't as mobile, we'll put them up on the plates. So we'll go back on the plates now, heel elevated. Perfect. Hold that same posture, okay? So you can see he's getting a little bit deeper in the bottom position. Push through those heels a little more. Good. So this is gonna force the athlete to really be aware of what their posture is doing so they're not leaning all over the place. So we're gonna take that off. Now this next step, next progression that we're gonna utilize is a driver squat. And so what we're gonna see from Ryan, you see he's gonna hold this out, come off the plates, and he's gonna do the exact same thing he just did, but he's got a little bit more of a load there. And this is gonna help him. This is a really, really good exercise. If you have an athlete that is extremely tight in their lower back and they struggle to get deep, utilize this. They can go into the heel elevated squat, but use that driver position to teach that full range of motion. And you can even use this as a mobility drill throughout that training session. So we've got that air squat, then we go right into that dowel rod zombie squat, and then that next key progression is a driver squat as we keep rolling through this to teach everybody how to high bar back squat. Okay, so that next key progression that we're gonna work into now, we went from that driver squat, we're going right into the goblet squat. So goblet squat, one, it's a great exercise if you're just trying to get a big pump, you wanna improve your mobility in your lower back, and you're doing something where it can target some quad strength growth, but it's not going to absolutely destroy you. But what this does is it does help as a counterbalance to help athletes get a little bit deeper. So Ryan's gonna do, let's go 5 here. And I would even say Ryan could go down a little bit more controlled, a little bit slower on the eccentric, and then try and come up as fast as possible. So using those cues where it's like down slow, up fast, down slow, up fast, and work through that range of motion, try and feel those positions. So again, if you have someone who is tighter in the lower back or is tighter in their ankles, you go onto the plates, you help them feel that position, or what we would recommend here is get Olympic weightlifting shoes, okay? You get that weightlifting shoe, you get that heel elevated a little bit, and you're gonna hit that nice deep position. Okay, so we won't be in this position too long so Ryan doesn't black out from doing these zombie squats with a bar, but the next progression that we're gonna be utilizing is a zombie squat with a barbell. So we've got a 15 kilo bar here. Now, you could use zombie squat or front squat. You can sort of be interchangeable with it. If I have an athlete who struggles with that front squat position, we'll do zombie squats first. So Ryan's gonna execute that barbell zombie squat. Go down a little bit slower. Now remember too, is that the key concept here is his posture. We don't want a forward lean. We don't want the hips coming back. We don't want to squat like powerlifters squat in a competition. That's fine for their sport. It's not fine for sports performance, and it's not okay for Olympic weightlifting. For weightlifting in general, we want to see this upright posture, that dynamic trunk control, good quad strength, and then as we transition to the back squat, we're going to get the training from that posterior chain. Now, Ryan's going to change his grip up so you can go into the front squat position. Ryan's going to grab that front squat position, and now we got to make sure, okay, is his whole hand on the bar. If his whole hand struggles to get into that front rack position, you can watch our YouTube video on improving the mobility of our front rack. So he's got his whole hand on there. He's nice and tight in his lats here. He's got good opening in that upper back here, and he's gonna push those knees forward, hips back. Try and keep those elbows upright just like you were with that zombie squat. So what key concept here, when he was doing zombie squats, his arms were straight out. Sometimes when people get into that front squat position, their elbows might drop a little different from the actual zombie squat execution. So make sure that you're teaching the athlete how to transfer those various movements, the driver squat, the goblet squat, the zombie squats, into that front rack position. This posture is gonna help us now as we transition into that next key piece. Okay, so now we're gonna get into that final key progression, and that is going to be that full, deep back squat. So we wanna see that good mobility. We wanna see the ankle mobility that we worked on as we warmed up and gone through all these different progressions, all the way from that air squat into that front squat. So Ryan's gonna establish his grip. Hang on, Ryan. So what I wanna see typically is like a thumb length off of the knurling here, okay? And if you're a little bit tighter, you might go pinky or rings on the rings. That's actually where I squat typically. And what I wanna see is when we get set, it's gonna be on the upper back here, just above the shoulder blades, and we wanna see a nice contraction okay, hugging the spine, and that's gonna create a shelf for where we're gonna put the bar. A lot of younger athletes will want a towel or a manta ray pad, I think they're called. Do not allow them to use that. Tell them to deal with it. That is part of lifting. It's just like wearing gloves. Deal with the callus, deal with that feeling. It'll go away, you'll be comfortable, everything will be fine. So don't let people use squat pads or towel pads. You lose connection with the barbell. I think you tend to end up leaning forward a little bit. With that being said, now we want to see, as we come in and we get loaded, actually opening up that chest there and then trying to squeeze in through that belly button. And then as Ryan unracks it, he'll take 2 steps back. Good. He's going to set that foot width position just a little bit wider. There you go. Then go. Yep, perfect. Maybe a hair wider. And now we've got to think, and we remember, pulling the knees forward, pulling the hips back, keeping that upright posture, and then up fast. Good. And now Ryan is squatting in sneakers here in flats. Ideally, he would have shoes, weightlifting shoes on. Something that's a little bit more sturdy, but for most athletes, when they start to train, they're gonna be wearing flats, so they've gotta learn how to squat properly with those flats. So give me 2 more and just really focus. We wanna see, it's almost the exact same position he's gonna be in as he comes out of the bottom in a front squat position, and it's gonna be transferring really well if we're doing cleans or snatches as well. So that's a really important concept here, is that getting that full range of motion is going to strengthen his dynamic trunk control. It's gonna strengthen his posterior chain, his quads. It's gonna lead to bigger vertical jumps. It's gonna lead to better sprinting mechanics because he's more mobile. It's also gonna lead to better agility because of that dynamic trunk control. And because we utilize technical coordination movements in our sports performance, it's going to enhance those movements as well. So give me 2 more, Ryan. Up fast, good, 1 more. Perfect, good. So if you need help with your training, with your back squat work, click on the link down below. You can pick up our back squat specific program or our course designed for weightlifting. If you want more content around squat based training, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.